Socialism, Nazism, Islam all involve scapegoats, and Jews have to a large extent been political scapegoats, but today other scapegoats have been added. The modern scapegoat seems to be white. I'm reading out loud from a book called Political Scapegoats, Now and in the Past, by Alfhilda Jeffen. In the introduction we read explanation to readers outside Europe. The purpose of this book is to show that trends that were modern 70 years ago are coming back, but disguised in other clothes. In order to understand and see the scapegoat method, it is important to understand the propaganda behind it. All ideologies, communism, Nazism, Islam, and the modern and present totalitarian ideology, the one world ideology with all its multicultural colors, need to let people focus on scapegoats, while they themselves plan to effectuate the same ideology that they accuse the scapegoats of. But where do all these trends come from that make all reasonable debate about the immigration question one big hodgepodge and veil the actual issue? The issue seems to a large extent to end up in an unnecessary multiple battle that prevents us clearly seeing the reality behind the political scenes. And who started these trends? They don't seem to have come casually. And who are our real enemies? May this book contribute to clear away some of the false beliefs so that we can concentrate on our real enemies. Who are they? End of the introduction. In a chapter, The Scapegoat Techniques, we read, "The propaganda has been so effective that it has survived, but the genuine Nazis of today who favor the Arabs, who support the European Union and the globalizing of the world and want all boundaries to be abolished, hide themselves and their plans in attacks on our national politicians, whom they describe not even as rats but as Nazis. No defense is better than attack, and both Arabs and our international globalists accuse Israel Jews of being Nazis. But here is a contradictory conflict." Here we will insert some additional remarks. In the year 1951, a relative of the Grand Mufti, Amin Husseini, started at the university in Cairo. His name was Rahman Abdul Rauf el-Qudwa el-Husseini, but he used a cover name, Yasser Arafat. I refer to the Islamic Nazi Brotherhood by Søren Espersen. Why did he have to use a cover name? He also used to accuse Israelis of being Nazis, but he ought to have looked at himself in the mirror, along with many others in the left-wing world. Maybe it was not so strange that the Palestinian headscarf was seen on the head of people in Denmark who had totalitarian and Pacific ideologies during the World War II, according to 5 long years Johannes Brønsted. And the partiality to Palestinians seems to have been handed down to the left-wing people of today. In the Islamic world, the Jews are still the primary scapegoats, and Muslims form a large part of all people in the world, but Western people, little by little, share the scapegoat role with the Jews. We are allowed to offend Christians and Jews very rudely, and nobody pays attention to it if we belong to the group of people with the correct opinions, but others don't share the same fortune. If they offend Jews, they'll immediately be stamped as racists. But also some people on the so-called right wing support the Muslims consciously or unconsciously when they support Muslims against Israel. They play the Muslims' game, and so do people who support those who want to destroy the USA. They fight for the Muslims against those who are our rescuers, the Americans, and fighting the USA and Israel, and the Jews for that matter, they not only turn their sword against themselves, but against everybody in the Western world. These attitudes do not only harm our conflict, but keep those people alive who want to upset our world. We have only one choice: to join America. All other attitudes will lead to suicide. We are not blind to the faults of the USA, but no nation is perfect, and in this matter we have no choice. It's not only a small group of mad persons who in the Arabic world want to extirpate all Jews. It's obvious when we read Muslim literature, what we experience from TV and other medias, and what we learn from students who have been practicing in a Quran school, that a hatred to both Jews and all others in the Western world is being exaggerated, and people who carry the anti-American banner help them indirectly. And while Arabs want the Jews to disappear from the face of the earth, the other part of the Third World is planning attacks against the white people. Today it's amazing that part of Danish Jews have turned their backs on Danes and attack us. Is this their thanks to us because our parents risked their own lives, and some even lost it, in their attempt to rescue them some generations ago? Oriane Falate reported in a lecture at the American Enterprise Institute on the 10th of October 2002, from Afghanistan to Sudan, from Palestine to Pakistan, from Malaysia to Iran, from Egypt to Iraq, from Algeria to Senegal, from Syria to Kenya, from Libya to Chad, from Lebanon to Morocco, from Indonesia to Yemen, from Saudi Arabia to Somalia, the hatred to the West is blowing up as a fire nourished by the wind. The Soviet Union wanted to extirpate whole classes of people. Nazism wanted to extirpate all Jews. So do the Muslims, and they have another aim: extirpation of the Kurds. And according to the Quran, they must extirpate all people who don't believe in Allah. The common denominator of all three ideologies is that they don't tolerate any criticism. Criticism can kill the critics. We can see that the three ideologies, Islam, Nazism and Communism, are very close to one another, and they all have the same totalitarian viewpoint: to attack the Western world and Western values, and our mainstream politicians seem to favor this truth. We learned after the end of World War II, according to Hitlers Tischgespräche, page 113, that Hitler never intended to fight and conquer the Soviet Union. On the contrary, all the time he hoped, even after having attacked the Soviet Union, that he could make an alliance with the communists with the aim of fighting and destroying them. According to Hannah Arendt, The Totalitarian Control, page 28, 95, 108, 113, and other pages. Does this remind us of something? Doesn't Islam aim at destroying the West? And don't pro-Islamist Europeans, the Islamofascists who support any Islamic attitude, have the same purpose? In actual fact, isn't it the program of communism and of all socialism? Isn't it the program of the Internationale to cross any boundary, according to the socialist song? This is the end of the first section from the book Political Scapegoats, Now and in the Past, by Alf-Hilda Jeffen. There'll be another section next time. If you want to buy the whole book of 64 pages, please contact the radio.